Hey guys, just wanted to do my review of Arrow Season 4, Episode 19, Canary Cry. So, the first scene is at a funeral in which Oliver is asked to give a eulogy, and it's Laurel herself that ends up giving the eulogy, and you realize it's a flashback of Tommy Merlin's funeral after the events of Season 1 and the undertaking. And she's the one that ends up giving the eulogy and makes a veiled swipe at Oliver, who's standing from afar watching, and then says that Oliver probably would be here if he could, and so he ends up walking away, and basically everybody's just like mourning Laurel. I mean, the present day, it takes place like right from the ending of the previous episode, in which Lance is walking past the various members of Team Arrow into Laurel's bedroom and see that she's dead in her hospital bed, and the reality sinks in, and he's so distraught that he stumbles out of the room, and the doctor gives Oliver Laurel's Black Canary costume, and there's this announcement on the news saying that from Alex, who the former campaign manager for Oliver, saying that Laurel's primary suspect in the killing, Damien Darhk, is still at large. There's a scene in which there's this arms deal going down, and then apparently the Black Canary apparently used her sonic scream to break up the deal, grabs, I guess, like a bunch of diamonds that were used to pay for the deal or whatever was out of the trunk from the arms deal, and then seems to just run off. So Oliver gathers the team and says, "Look, I know you guys want to just curl up on a ball and grieve for Laurel, but we gotta get ourselves together and pick up the pieces and find Damien Darhk." And then Quentin shows up with a newspaper saying that the Black Canary broke up an arms deal, and he's convinced that Laurel's still alive. And given they live in a world where there's, Lazarus pits and time travel and whatnot, and he starts rattling, listing off all the names of people who were thought dead and were still alive, including Oliver himself. And since this team doesn't have a better explanation as to what's going on, they decide to go to the morgue and realize that Laurel's body's still there, which discourages Quentin. But then Oliver asks the doctor about who could have taken Laurel's sonic device from her belongings, and the doctor says that she suspects that a patient who's like a regular there, but she won't give up her identity because of confidentiality rules. So Felicity has to try to do facial recognition to find out who she is, and Diggle's been beating himself up for the whole episode about feeling like if he had listened to Oliver and taking his own advice about, having a blind spot when it comes to family, that Laurel would still be alive since Andy had a hand in her death. And Felicity doesn't say anything to ease his guilt, and she confides in Oliver that she feels guilty for not trying to ease Diggle's guilt because she's beating herself up because she feels like if she had been working with them during the trying to help out with the riots over at Iron Heights, that Laurel would still be alive. And Oliver finally opens up and says that the reason why he always blames himself for other people's death and all this tragedy around him was because it was an answer. It was in a solution to try to make sense out of this horrible stuff that's befallen him in his life and others. And then they're able to do facial recognition, but then the faux Black Canary attacks Thea and Alex while they're on a date and almost kills Alex because of the fact that she works for Rube Dark, and the imposter apparently finds out about Rube Dark's connections to Damien and Hive, and Thea is able to save Alex's life and calls Oliver, and when Oliver confronts her, she says that she's able to use the Sonics to subdue Oliver, and says that he failed the city and left them to die at Reddington Industries. Reddington Industries was the place where Team Arrow was taken captive during the mid-season finale, and where there were other people who were there as volunteers who were who were in the gas chambers by Damien Dark. But they were there of their own, even though they were there of their own free will. Oliver still feels like he still failed to. They still left him. It didn't change the fact that they still left him to. They still left them to die, and apparently, the imposter Evelyn Sharp, who's impersonating the Black Canary, her parents were one of the victims, and she's impersonating the Black Canary in order to avenge their deaths. And so things go from bad to worse when Dave becomes so consumed with anger and rage that she confronts Rube's limo, shoots the bodyguards and the driver, and when she confronts Rube at gunpoint and she gets smart with Diggle, she pistol whips him and is about to shoot her at point blank until Oliver has to come in and stop him, saying that he can't assassinate her because of what she's done, because they have no proof of what she's done. She's still the mayor of the city. She has the media and the law enforcement on her side, and he's just going to look like the villain. And this is where like David Ramsey gives a really good performance, where he's so consumed with rage and he's like slamming on the trunk, saying like he's so angry that he can't breathe and he's in tears. And Ollie tells him that in spite of what happens, that for the sake of Laurel's sake, they can't, sink to their enemy's level. And they also find out that the imposter's name, I mentioned it's Evelyn Sharp, and it turns out that she's planning. Evelyn Sharp then again tries to attack Rube at a gala, and Oliver is able to convince her to stop by saying, what would the real Black Canary do? And both she and Oliver are able to escape before the anti-vigilante task force is able to arrest them, since now Rube Dark is able to galvanize them, and because of the attack on Alex and the attack on her. And Lance, who tries to go to Nyssa about trying to resurrect Laurel with the Lazarus Pit, and she says that she destroyed the pit months ago. And you can and Lance walks out. Nyssa's clearly in tears, just like regretting it and feeling bad that she can't help Lance in any way because of the fact that she destroyed the pit, because of the initial effects on Sarah, and also just to spite Merlin. And Lance just tries to go to an old League of Assassins hideout, and this is probably where Paul Blackthorne is one of his best performances, in talking about how Laurel was his rock through all the tragedy in his life, which was Sarah's supposed death as well as his divorce. And he breaks down crying in front of Oliver, and he's like down on his knees saying like, I can't do this, I don't know if I can do this. And then like Thea's lamenting about how she feels like Evelyn has probably tarnished Laurel's legacy as a Black Canary, and Oliver said he plans to rectify that, in which he tells everybody, including Dinah Lance, who thinks that Laurel can come back the way Sarah did, and she's told otherwise. He tells everybody there that Laurel was the Black Canary and that she died trying to save the city, both as an ADA and as a vigilante. And of course they have more flashbacks in which Oliver goes to Laurel's apartment saying that he tried to come up with a eulogy for Tommy and that he couldn't think of one because he felt like he failed Tommy in the city, and if Laurel knew the truth that she would understand why Oliver was beating himself up so much. And then she later goes over to Oliver goes up back to her apartment where they're talking about Tommy and about a class president campaign from high school, and then they're kissing, which I feel like was kind of in bad taste because it's like Laurel and Tommy were dating and now like they're just getting back together just right after he died, and it's like the writers are going out of their way to make her unlikable again just to justify killing her, which kind of pissed me off. But sort of saved it, not really, is the part where where Oliver left the picture of Laurel that he kept with him when he went missing, and a letter saying that he has to leave the city, and that's when he goes into his like self-imposed exile, in which we find him in the season 2 premiere. And also, it just, of course, the last few scenes are just like the flash forward footage of, Barry showing up, Oliver saying he's gonna kill Dark, and now the footage includes the tombstone where he died in Laurel Lance, 1985 to 2016, and says the Black Canary, and Felicity encouraging Oliver to kill Dark, and he says he doesn't know how because of his magic, and he says that he doesn't know how to beat him, and she tells him that she refuses to let him to believe that it's impossible to beat Dark, otherwise Dark died for nothing. You got to defeat Dark just for Laurel's sake, for the city's sake. And it's definitely, if it wasn't for the performances for the episode, especially from, David Ramsey, Paul Blackthorne, and Katrina Law, just the actors in general, I probably would have hated this episode a lot more. It was still pretty solid. I still think it was kind of a bullshit decision to kill Laurel, and just the fact that it's like that the priest gave a speech saying a life who hasn't been fully developed has been taken from us too soon, which maybe I'm reading too much into this, maybe it's just some kind of like insult, like not so veiled swipe at the fans from Mark Guggenheim, or whoever made this decision about killing her off, saying that, oh yeah, we killed a character that wasn't fully developed or fully redeemed, so tough shit for you guys. But again, it's the performances that really redeemed this episode, and probably for me, and it's pretty solid. Like I said, I'm gonna watch it for the last like 4 episodes, see where this goes. But I don't know if I don't know if I'm still gonna keep watching the show just on principle. And like I said, I'll see where this goes. I mean, do you think that they still tarnish Laurel's memory with the flashbacks? How did you feel about the character? Did you feel like it was still a solid episode? I mean, just let me know. Do you still think Laurel should still be alive? Just let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.